Hey YouTube, what is up? This is my third video I'm uploading today. And as I mentioned before, I'm still looking into editing software. I downloaded VideoPad. I'm just not sure how to align the video and the sound. So, like using stock video footage, but with the sound of me recording. So, once I figure that out, my videos are gonna look more cinematic. And maybe I'll include some camera shots. I don't know if my webcam is good enough, but I will include some camera shots of myself talking. But yeah, at least the only upside of Spartan videos is that I can upload them quickly. I don't know how many other YouTubers upload 3 videos in a day. So anyway, today I just wanted to do a part two of my video, my reading list for 2022. Some of the books I forgot to mention. So I had already downloaded them. Like half the books I downloaded them. The other half, like I downloaded them before I made the previous video. But the other half of the books I downloaded after I made the video. And just a gentle reminder, it takes 5.6 hours at regular reading speed to read a 200-page book, right? So in a month, I mean, you could finish that in a day, but in a month, you can at least read one book, right? I think everyone should strive to have a target of reading at least 2 to 3 books per month, because honestly, that's just 15 hours spread out, right? That's 15 hours spread out every month. Because if you read 2 books every month, that's 24 books in a year. Like literally in 2 years, you'd practically be caught up to me, right? You'd have read pretty much 50 books. Well, 48, but I'm sure on the weekends and the holidays you could squeeze out maybe an extra book or two. So it's really not that hard. And personally, how I learn is I love to read 3 books at a time that are very different from each other. So maybe I'm reading one book on physics, another book on psychology, and another book on politics or geography. So that's how I love to read, right? So for example, like on this list, I might read number 8 billion dollar app, which is how to build a $1 billion app, but it's not technical. Then I might also read one of the 3 Python books. And then I might also read the essays of Warren Buffett. So you see, those are 3 books. Like one is business. I mean, they're all business, but one is essays. So it's about stocks. The other is about the other is about how to interpret financial statements, and the other one is about coding. I mean, one is on stocks, the other one is on coding, the other one is on how to run a tech business in general. So, starting with the first book, Security Analysis. This book was originally written in 1940 by Benjamin Graham, but it's still regarded today as one of the best books on investing. And this is the 6th edition, so I believe it was updated in 2009, right? So 200 additional pages by all of these financial managers and gurus. And yeah, I believe the publishing date is, yeah, copyright 2009. So yeah, that one, securities analysis, just basically how to analyze stocks. That's more or less what it's about. I'm sure maybe it talks about other securities as well, but I believe I'm mainly reading it just to analyze stocks. So this was one of the books I already planned to read. So forward by Warren Buffett, but mainly by Benjamin Graham. So next we have 3 books about Warren Buffett, not necessarily written by him. There is Interpretation of Financial Statements It's Warren Buffett and the Interpretation of Financial Statements. So this was written by Mary Buffett, his daughter-in-law, so not Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett doesn't have the time to read books. I mean, that's kind of greedy. Like, he reads all these books, but he doesn't write any. So written by Mary Buffett, who also authored Buffettology and the Tao of Warren Buffett. I believe there is an audio version available, but since it does involve some calculations, I would just go with the physical version or the digital version, not the audio version. Then there's the Essays of Warren Buffett, and there's also University of Berkshire Hathaway. So Berkshire Hathaway is his company. And let me just explain the difference between the two books. So University of Berkshire Hathaway is just all the electronic records of the annual meetings and the annual reports. I think maybe it's just the annual shareholders meetings that Warren Buffett has hosted since 1986. And these meetings are like extremely luxurious and important. Like, I think one of the most recent ones, I believe both Bill Gates and Tim Cook were there. So you can imagine that. Imagine a meeting that involves Bill Gates and Tim Cook, pretty important people who are leading the tech world. I don't know if Jeff Bezos was there. I'm not too sure, but it wouldn't be too out of place if he was there. So this is all the transcripts of that, but it's just the transcripts this is in chronological order, okay? And then the Essays of Warren Buffett is more in not necessarily alphabetical order, but the person has organized those meetings in terms of subject. So maybe there are 4 years where Warren Buffett talked about corporate governance. So he's just organized that, like chapter 1, corporate governance, chapter 2, corporate finance and investing. So he's just organized it. So this is just like a raw transcript, the University of Berkshire Hathaway, and the Essays of Warren Buffett is just organized. So it's the same words, but organized and slightly edited. But Warren Buffett did give a shout out to this book, I believe. And he said that, this is someone who is using Warren Buffett's words instead of their own words. So he likes the book. So, we can't talk about Warren Buffett without talking about his right-hand man, Charlie Munger. So there's a book called The Wit and Wisdom of Charlie Munger. Well, it's called the Poor Charlie's Almanac, The Wit and Wisdom of Charlie Munger, Charles Munger, Charlie Munger, same thing. So I think this book is a bit more satirical, but Charlie Munger kind of talks about what is like common sense. Like, they say common sense is uncommon. So he just tries to talk about how he uses common sense in everyday life and how it solves a lot of problems. Like, for example, with Charlie, whenever he gets a new job or a new problem, he starts by thinking what not to do. I believe a long time ago he was in the military and he was like a weatherman for the military. So he asked himself if he was going to steer these planes successfully. Instead of saying what should he do, he asked the opposite question. If he wanted to destroy the planes, what would be the easiest way? So he'd say drive them into the mountains and drive them where there's no fuel. So once he thought that way, he decided to think now he just needs to do the opposite, which is avoid the mountains and make sure they're always in areas where they have fuel. So that's just one of his tips, right? So if you're ever stuck, I think our brains kind of do that automatically. I think my brain automatically thinks of what not to do. So I don't necessarily agree with him, but I think it could work for some people. Or if you're really stuck on a problem and you're really trying to think of any and all alternatives, then yeah, go for it. Just try and think of the opposite, right? you're trying to think of world peace, try and think how would you cause World War III, right? I mean, I have ideas, I just wouldn't say them on YouTube, but you can probably think of a few ideas and then just do the opposite of that. Or you're trying to win an election, think what's the best way to lose the election and then avoid doing that. So that's just an excerpt from the Poor Charlie's Almanac. Then there's also Charlie Munger, the Complete Investor. I mean, the truth is, he's kind of an asshole. Like, if you watch most of his interviews, he's kind of an asshole. But it's interesting just to see his perspective. So I think this book is now more detailed in terms of how he actually grew up and how he started investing and what his investment principles are. So I think there is an audio version for this as well. So that's the one I'll listen to when I'm bored. Yeah, I mean, you guys might get the wrong impression that, oh, maybe I worship Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. I don't really. It's more of a phase. I'm at that age of my life where I realize it does make a lot of sense to invest either in stocks or crypto. I think crypto is volatile and there's no analysis to it. People are just like, oh, it's going up, down, up, down, up, down. But I believe if you have a fundamental understanding of stocks, then you will understand how to invest in crypto and you'll possibly diversify your portfolio to minimize risk to a certain extent. So I've always said the main way I plan on making money is through business. So I was reading this book, How to Build a $1 Billion App by George Bukowski. This one already started in 2021. I'm more than halfway through, probably three-quarter way through. That's what I've been thinking. I need to move to Sydney, get permanent residency, then either start a company there or get a job in San Francisco and then start a company there, like learn how to code along the way and then start a company there and eventually sell it for millions or billions of dollars. The thing with this book is it's a good book, but it can be a bit general. But he does do a good job of telling you what the industry is like. Like he tells you video games are probably your best shot at making $1 million apps. He tells you few companies have actually made $1 million apps. But if you think about it, it's pretty crazy. Like it is insane how much money you need to make to become a billionaire. Because if you start out with 100% of the company and then you have your first seed round with an angel investor, maybe you lose 20% and then you're left with 80% and then you have a few venture rounds, so they keep on taking more and more percent, you might end up with 50%. So that's crazy. You basically need to make 2 billion to have 1 billion. And there's the term in the industry called unicorns. That's companies with $1 billion valuation, and there are quite few. I think maybe there are only 24 or 25 app companies that have reached $1 billion valuation. So that's crazy. Like just getting to $1 billion alone is crazy. So if you're lucky, maybe you'll get 500 million. If you're lucky enough to get a unicorn with 1 billion, you get 500 million. And he also says that most companies have 2 to 3 founders. So that's where things get crazy, right? Because if you have 50 divided by 3, that's how much? That's 1, 2 remains. I don't know. How many times does 3 go into 20? Is it 6? It's like 16, basically, right? Because 36 is like 42, something like that. Yeah, it's 16. My maths was correct. So basically, if there are 3 founders and you managed to get $1 billion valuation, and you all started with 100%. Well, I mean, obviously, you'd have to start with a three-way equity of like 3.33. Eventually, it gets watered down to like 16%. Then, I mean, that's only 160 million from making $1 billion company. So that is crazy. It is crazy how rich you need to be a billionaire. It is really crazy. I found another commercial real estate book by Dolph DeRuse. I saw his videos and he seemed interesting. He listed like 11 reasons why people might want to sell a home, and they were all very convincing reasons. In his book, 52 Homes in 52 Weeks. So basically, buying 52 homes in 1 year. So I like the way he talks, and I think he had some seminars in South Africa as well. So I mean, I'm from Kenya, but the fact that he's in Africa telling people how to invest, I think he's from New Zealand originally, means I find him quite interesting. I think he's literally never had a job in his life, like ever. Like he finished uni. I don't know if he did electrical engineering, and he went straight into real estate. So never had a job. Never. He just like from uni, he's just like, nope, I never want to work for someone. So pretty interesting person. I'll read this one after I read the other two books, or maybe after I finish the first commercial real estate by by dummies, for dummies, commercial real estate for dummies. So some of the coding books I want to read. The first one is Head First Python. So I heard it's an easy way to learn Python. I heard Python is the most popular language with lots of support, and it's the easiest language to learn. So that's the one I want to do. Then learn Python the hard way. I remember I was having a conversation with someone about a cartoon I'd watched in my childhood, and I remembered like some of the exact words that were spoken. And the reason is because that cartoon used to come on Cartoon Network all the time. So maybe from like age, I don't know, age 6 to like age 10 or age 12, it's like 6 years of just reruns, 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 reruns. So it's like drilled into my head because I've been having some memory issues. Uh, but I still remember like the old stuff that happened like in my childhood and stuff. So like if you ask me these days, there's some anime I've only watched once, but I only vaguely remember what happened. But some of the old cartoons, I remember like everything that happened. So that's what this book is sort of about. When they say the hard way, they don't mean it's hard, but they want to drill certain syntax into your mind so that you know how to do it. Like you memorize it basically. It's hardwired into your brain, tattooed into your retina so that you don't forget it. So I want to learn Python the hard way after Head First Python. And then there's some for dummies books, 7-in-1 on Python. Again, for dummies books are usually very long. Yeah. Super Intelligence by Nick Bostrom. I was gonna finish it. I already started like down. I started like 2020. I might finish it. It's just on super intelligence, artificial super intelligence. So he's more of a critic and he's a philosopher. So he's not actually like the person building AI. I feel he lacks some perspective because he's not the one building AI. But yeah. This one, how to acquire 1 million real estate in 1 year using borrowed money in your free time. I'm not going to read this book. I just put it there for fun to just show you how crazy some of these titles can get. Yep, I think that's every book. Yeah. So those are the 8 new books that I wanted to add to my list. So in terms of how many books I really plan on reading, in terms of the importance, I would say, as I said in the previous video, maybe the 100 stocks, 100 baggers, commercial real estate, fundamental analysis, YouTube, the Warren Buffett books. I might not read the Charlie Munger books. In fact, out of the Warren Buffett books, I might only read the financial statements one. And the Python books, I might not read the For Dummies one. I might only read the Python 3 and the Head First Python. And the $1 Billion App, yeah, I'll definitely finish that. And as I said, one book a month is very doable. Like 5 hours spread out over 30 days. Like, think about it. 5.6, let's even call it 6 hours spread by 30, right? So you only need to read 0.2 hours a day. So 0.2 times 60, right? 12. Can you believe that, guys? You only need to read 12 minutes a day to finish a book in a month. Seriously, 12 minutes a day. 12 minutes. I mean, we can at least do two books, and that's 24 minutes a day, right? And you can divide it up. Maybe you do, like, you can do 1 hour on Saturday, 1 hour on Sunday, and that means you can skip 4 days in the week, right? Like, if you just do Friday half an hour, and then Saturday 1 hour and Sunday 1 hour, you'll have read 2 books a month, which is 24 books a year, which is 50 books in 2 years. And if you're like me and you do 3, then that's imagine only 36 minutes a day. Like, what I'm trying to say is that if you read each book 12 minutes, so a total reading time of 36 hours a day, 36 minutes a day, and you do 12 minutes on each book. Like, I like to swap. Like, I'll read one page. So, like, I'll read 1 page of Python, 1 page of Buffett, 1 page of real estate, right? So it keeps your mind fresh and agile. It's kind of like how we're taught in school, in a more rapid sense. Like, you don't just have maths for the whole day. You have maths in the morning, then English, then Swahili, then science, but now on a smaller scale. And obviously I like to Google things. So, like, when I learn something, I'll maybe Google it. So it might take me an hour. But seriously, if you just spend, let's even call it 40, if you just spend 40 minutes reading a day, you can read 3 books in a month. And 36 times 2, you can read 72 books, right? 72 books in 2 years. Like, just think how smart and intelligent you'd be if you read 72 books over the next 2 years. Just imagine where you would be, right? Just imagine the wisdom and knowledge you would have. So that's my challenge to you. Like, the next 2 years, that should be your New Year's resolution. Your next 2 years, try and read 2 to 3 books a month. 2 to 3 books a month for the next 2 years, and you'll have read anywhere from 50 to 70 books in 2 years. And trust me, your whole world will change. Your whole entire world. Like, so many things will change. So many, 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 many things. I guarantee you will not see the world the same way. That's for sure. That is 100% for sure. And sure, like, maybe you might say some of the people who read books are not that rich. And I'll admit it. Like there's a guy called the Swedish investor who he's read 100 books on investing. I'm not sure what his net worth is. I really doubt it's more than 10 million. It's probably 1 to 10 million. Let's even say it's 2 million, right? But imagine if you had done the same as him, and you probably don't need to read as many books, but if you read 70 books purely on investing, and over the next 2 years you invested and you have an extra million in your pocket, that wouldn't that be nice? Right. I just finally wanted to show you Lee Lu's recommended book list. He's actually read Jared Diamond's Guns, Germans. That is, I'm telling you, that is, oh my gosh, that book. I respect this man. Like, I read the book back in 2012. That book was groundbreaking. That book was amazing. Well, I watched the documentaries. There's a 3-part documentary on YouTube that you can find. You see, these are the books that geniuses read. So, as I said, Li Lu is the Warren Buffett of China. That he's so good at investing that Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's right hand man, has invested some of his money into Himalaya Capital, which he manages. Right? Warren Buffett has only one stock, Berkshire Hathaway. Charlie Munger has only 3 stocks. Berkshire Hathaway, I mean, not one stock, but one stock in his portfolio, right? Like, you know what I mean. Charlie Munger has only 3, Himalaya Capital, Costco, and Berkshire Hathaway. Charlie Munger is worth billions of dollars, and part of his portfolio is in Himalaya Capital, right? And this is what Li Lu recommends reading. Just look at this. He has a list of 20 books. Well, I think they're much more than 20. Yeah, they're more than 20. Science and philosophy, Chinese civilization. I mean, look at this. Like, you don't understand the level that people are going to just get this knowledge. Like, there's this guy who's hustling, man. I saw him today on YouTube. He is hustling. He is trying to get a book written by Li Lu that's in Chinese, and he's literally translating it page by page using Google Translate, because you can't like translate the whole PDF at once. As in, that is how much he's hustling to gain that knowledge. Because Li Lu is probably, apart from Ray Dalio, probably one of the best experts on investing in China, because he grew up in China. And if you've been paying attention to economics, and that's why I said it's important to read broadly, you know, politics, economics, philosophy, finance, business. If you're paying attention to economics, China is set to pass the United States as the world's largest economy by GDP. So I think it's already passed it by GDP in terms of purchasing power parity, but in terms of like total GDP, it's set to pass it, I think, by 2030, if I'm not wrong. So look at this. China is red, US is blue. So by 2026 or 2028, China will have surpassed the US as the world's largest economy. We're currently in 2022, so there's still a gap. And if you look at the current measurement of GDP in 2016, in terms of billions of dollars, yes, the US is ahead, but when you adjust for purchasing power parity, so that's kind of like what your money can actually buy you in terms of the like how much money you can spend. How do I explain it? Purchasing power parity. Let me just show you guys. I mean, you can just search it, but basically, in terms of purchasing power parity, it just means that in China, your money is going to go a lot further. So, in terms of buying, whether it's an apartment or whether it's bread, Coca-Cola, Heinz ketchup, all of those things, it's cheaper in China. So they've already passed the US in purchasing power parity, and they're going to pass them in nominal GDP. So, in other words, this is very close, right? As we saw in the in the chart, it's going to happen in 2028. Guys, that's 5 years away. And my question is, how do you think economic growth happens? It happens by companies making more money, right? So definitely that's why people are investing in China. Now, as I said, I'm very bearish on China because I don't really believe in the regulations that they have. But I wouldn't mind giving some of my portfolio to China, right? So currently in Li Lu's portfolio, he doesn't have much of Chinese stock, but he got to where he was by investing in some Chinese companies. Anyway, my point is the man that people are looking to from China in terms of investing is Li Lu and obviously Ray Dalio. And Li Lu, as you can see, he spends his whole life reading. So I'm just trying to dispel this myth. There's this myth that smart people don't read, that successful people don't read, that, oh, it just magically happened, that it just naturally happened, that the skills just fell from the sky and they succeed without touching a single book. If you Google it, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Xi Jinping, Mao Zedong, all of them were avid readers in their childhood all the way up to adulthood. They loved reading. I'm telling you, Xi Jinping is a nerd, okay? The most powerful man in the world is a nerd, okay? While you guys were busy partying, drinking, and smoking, Xi Jinping was hitting the books, okay? He was like, he read so much, it wasn't even, watch the documentary, just watch the documentary on how he grew up. He read so much, it wasn't even by preference. Like, he wouldn't even read like books he's interested in. He would just read anything he could get his hands on. And that's how he became smart enough to take over China and become the most powerful man in the world. So keep reading, and one day you too might become the most powerful man in the world. Or woman, or whatever of the 87 genders you identify with.